Hello everyone, I made this video to talk about integers, which are essentially positive and negative whole numbers, and I want to talk about how to do arithmetic with them, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. We're going to start with adding, which is one of the simpler versions, and the key to this, I think, is to think about money. Positive numbers is money you have, negative numbers are money you owe. So for this top example up here, 3 plus negative 3, you have $3, you also owe $3. Altogether you have $0. You should also keep in mind negatives and positives cancel each other out when you're adding. So 3 positives and 3 negatives cancel to give you 0. This next example here, negative 2 plus 5, you owe $2, you just picked up 5, it looks like you have a total of $3, positive 3 because that's what you have. Next one, negative 3 plus negative 3. You owe $3, you owe $3, altogether you owe $6, negative 6. 7 plus negative 13, you have 7, you owe 13, that's going to also be negative 6, you owe $6 still. And then lastly, negative 6 plus negative 7, they're both negative, you owe 6, you owe 7, looks like altogether you owe 13. There's addition, think money, that's the key. Subtraction is a bit trickier because it's really hard to reason out subtracting with positive and negative numbers, even when you think money. Take something like this example here we go. This is like saying you owe $3 and someone takes away $4 that you owe. You might be able to reason it out that way, but it's a little bit more complicated. So typically we take our subtraction and we turn it into addition. And the way we do that is by something called adding the opposite. So if you take this top example I worked out, we had negative 5 minus 7. Adding the opposite, what it does is it takes a subtraction and it makes it a plus. And then in order to make it a plus, you have to change the sign of this second number. Right? So we were subtracting a 7, like a positive 7. The opposite of that, when we add the opposite, will be we're going to be adding a negative 7. Right? So notice the negative 5 stays the same. There it is. The minus becomes a plus, and the regular 7 becomes a negative 7. This is a lot easier to deal with because we can think money again, right? Anytime it's addition, you can think money. You owe 5, you owe 7, altogether you owe 12. So let's practice this adding the opposite and getting the answer this way. In the second example, 6 minus 12, 6 stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, and we were subtracting a regular 12, so the opposite of that, is a negative 12. Right, so 6 minus 12 becomes 6 plus negative 12, and here you have $6, you owe 12, you're going to end up owing 6 still. That's our result. Next one, negative 3 minus negative 4. Negative 3 stays the same, the minus becomes a plus, and the opposite of negative 4 becomes a positive 4. And here we owe 3, we have 4, altogether we have 1. Lastly, 12 minus negative 9. First one stays the same, the subtraction becomes a plus, and instead of a negative 9 we flip it to a positive 9. Right, this is obviously much easier to deal with than what we had, and that'll give us a positive 21. Multiplication and division is actually really easy because all you have to remember is what the signs are. The actual arithmetic is the same, so same times table, same division. The key here is that two of the same signs will give you a positive. So 2 negatives or 2 positives obviously give you positive, and 2 opposite signs give you a negative. So a positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive. So this first example, 6 times negative 3, you have a positive 6 and negative 3, so you know the answer is going to be negative. And then 6 times 3 is 18, so you just get negative 18. The second example, negative 4 divided by negative 2. This time they're both negative, and 2 negatives cancel each other out when you're doing multiplication and division, of course. That'll give us a positive, and 4 divided by 2 is 2, so a positive 2. Another multiplication problem here. Don't forget numbers next to parentheses. This right here means multiplication. So we have a negative 7, and we're multiplying a negative 5. They're both negative, so the result will be positive, and 7 times 5 is 35. And lastly, 12 divided by negative 4. Positive divided by a negative will be a negative, and 12 over 4 is 3. Alright, so here's just a mix so you can think about the different rules. The biggest mistake is people will remember that, oh yeah, a negative times a negative is a positive, and then they'll think that a negative plus a negative is a positive, right? Anytime you have addition, you have to think money, and unfortunately, negative money plus negative money doesn't become positive money. So this top one, negative 5 plus negative 8, we're thinking money. We owe 5, we owe 8. Altogether, we owe 13. The second one's division. So here, we have a positive divided by a negative, so we know the result's going to be negative. And then 14 divided by 2 is 7, so we get a negative 7. Then we have subtraction. We're going to have to turn it into addition. The first number always stays the same. The minus becomes a plus, and instead of a negative 5, it'll become a positive 5. I guess I didn't need the parentheses. And then we have a negative plus a positive, or sorry, even simpler, let's think money. We owe 3, we have 5, we're still going to have $2. Multiplication, positive times a negative, that's going to be negative. And 6 times 4 is 24. And lastly, another subtraction, we're going to turn it into addition. First number stays the same. Our minus will become a plus. And instead of a minus 6, or sorry, instead of a regular 6 we're subtracting, we're going to turn it into the opposite, which is a negative 6. And here we're thinking money, we owe 7, we owe 6. Altogether we owe 13. Alright, so hopefully this helps out. Practice these. I know that you might seem, some of them, specifically the subtraction, might seem confusing at first, but practice it, you'll get used to it, and of course, figure out how to do these on the calculator, because that's a good way to just check your work. You want to be able to run through this in your head, get an answer, but then double check it on the calculator to make sure you're not making any simple mistakes. That's it for now. Hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.